Hello, hello, hello! Welcome back to my channel. My name is Kat, and today I am very excited to do my March TBR. So this is Women's History Month, and also I am reading for the Invisible Cities project. So first let's get into Invisible Cities, and then some NetGalley ARCs I have, and then female voices that I really am looking forward to getting to in March. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Timestamps are down below if you want them. So the picks for the Invisible Cities project for March include Iraq, Mexico, and Libya. I did request one from Libya from my library for them to buy it, but it has not come in yet, so I'm just doing 2 of the 3 for this month. So let's start out with Mexico first. I really want to talk about a recent purchase. This is The Route of Ice and Salt by Jose Luis Zarate. This is a Mexican translation from the Spanish to the English, and I am enthralled. I am so ready to read this one. This is a queer reimagining of Dracula's journey from Transylvania to England, and it's on the high seas. What more could you want? I don't know. I'm so highly anticipating this novel. And then for Iraq, I checked out of the library God in Pink by Hasan Namir. So Namir was actually born in Iraq, and then he immigrated later to Canada. And this is about growing up queer and Muslim in war-torn Iraq in the early 2000s. I've heard really mixed things about this on the Goodreads reviews, but it was one of the only queer Middle Eastern novels that I could find. So I'm really looking forward to it because that's an intersection I haven't read a lot of. So if you have any to suggest, please let me know, but I'm very much looking forward to this. Next, let's talk about NetGalley ARCs. I have 4 to talk about, and I'm going to talk about them in order that they are coming out. So I was lucky enough to be granted an early copy of Fragile Remedy by Ingrande Mora. If you remember last year, this was one of my most anticipated books of last year, and then the publication got put off to this year. So when I got approved for this arc, I lost my shit. I was so excited to read this. So this is following 16-year-old Nate, who is a gem, genetically engineered metatissue. So he's created as a part replacement for other beings who are suffering from lung rot. Yet as a child, he's smuggled out of the lab, and he's trying to find a life for his own. And then he meets Reed, who is kind of this leader of a scavenger gang, and it's very much like found family and maybe some queer romance that's happening. There is so much in here that I love. There's human AI, there's queer rep, there's a dystopian world, I'm so excited for this. I love the cover. I've been wanting to read this for literally years, and I can't wait to read it. I will be reading this the first week of March because it comes out, I think, March 9th. So I will be getting to it very, very soon, and I am over the moon. Another NetGalley arc I have is The Savage Instinct by Marjorie DeLuca, who is an English writer. And this is set in England, 1873, and I'm not normally into historical, but I am when we're talking about female serial killers. So we're following Clara, who has just been released from an asylum for the criminally insane after a year, and her one goal is to not be put back in that horrible place. Yet as she is leaving, she sees Mary Ann Cotton being brought into the prison or the asylum, and she is England's first female serial killer, accused of poisoning nearly 20 people, including their husbands and children. So Clara soon finds that her marriage to her husband is just as oppressive as it was, and she seeks relief in writing letters to the imprisoned female serial killer. And then it goes from there. What could possibly go wrong? I, for some reason, am so fascinated by this. I just think it sounds great, and I can't wait to read it. The next arc I want to talk about is Folklorn by Angela Mi Young Her. So this one is a continent-spanning saga of Korean myth and scientific discovery. So we are following Elsa Park, who works in Antarctica as a particle physicist at the top of her game. And long ago, she decided that she was going to distance herself from the family ghost that she's been running from. I mean, Antarctica is pretty damn far. However, it isn't long before her childhood friend, who is a spectral woman in the snow, comes to claim her at last. Years ago, Elsa's mother told her that the women in their family line are doomed to repeat the narrative lives and mistakes of their ancestors in Korean myth and legend. The mental illness and generational trauma that runs in her family is a sickness no less ravenous than the ancestral curse haunting her. So we have a curse that is intertwined with a family mental illness, which is traveling through the generations, and we also have settings in Antarctica and then back where the mother is. So I think it just sounds really interesting, really fascinating. And the last arc that I'm going to read for March is one that I just saw and loved immediately, and what caught my attention is that it is actually blurbed by Katie O'Neill, who wrote Tea Dragon Society as well as Princess Ever After, which I loved. So I am talking about Sprite and the Gardener by Joe Whitt and Abrego, and on Goodreads it says Joe Whitt wrote it and Abrego illustrated it. However, when I looked them up, they co-wrote and I believe co-illustrated, so the Goodreads description is a little incorrect there. But this is about sprites who are the caretakers of gardens. It sounds really sweet, and I mean, it just looks adorable. Like, honestly, it just looks adorable, and I'm really excited to read it. And it's out by Oni Press, which is very exciting to see, because I love Oni Press. I think they do really great graphic novels and also super sweet ones. So this is at the top of my list for March. Next, I want to talk about the books that are already published, already out, that I really, really want to read. And one of them in particular is one that is no surprise to anyone. This is my utmost goal this month, other than the NetGalleys. I am going to frickin' finish Romantic Outlaws. I have been reading this for literally years now. I pick it up, put it down, pick it up, put it down, and right now I am halfway through this book. So I have roughly this much left. This much right here in the middle. Because back here, these are all like bibliography. So I have this much left to read. I must finish this. This is the intertwining stories of Mary Wollstonecraft, who wrote The Vindication of Rights of Women, and her daughter, Mary Shelley, who wrote Frankenstein, as you know, which is one of my favorite classics of all time, blah, blah, blah. I must finish this. This is my, like, #1 goal. If I do not finish it this month, I will be very sorely disappointed in myself. So gotta read it. Next, I definitely want to pick up Confessions by Kanae Minato. This is a Japanese work in translation about a female teacher who has taught her students for a long time, and she's retiring, and on her last day she's decided to do something different. Instead of just a regular goodbye celebration, she is going to find out which students killed her child and get revenge on them. And I've heard nothing but good things. Journaline has absolutely raved about it, and it's about damn time that I read it. So I will be getting to this. Another one, which is quite dark as well, is When I Was 10 by Fiona Cummins. I bought this last year and I really wanted to read it, and then I just didn't pick it up, and now is the time. So this is following two young girls who were 10, and the house next to them had a double murder happen where both the husband and the wife were killed. And it soon comes to light that one of the little girls was the murderer, and she is sent away for 8 years in a children's secure unit, and was nicknamed the Angel of Death. However, when a documentary team talks to the other sister who didn't go to prison, they start to uncover long buried secrets. So I think this sounds really excellent. I'm not sure if it's like neither are evil, one is evil, both are evil. I'm just excited for the ride. And on the topic of human AI, kind of like Fragile Remedy, which I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I also really want to read Crier's War by Nina Varela. I've wanted to read this forever and I just never do. I don't know why I never do, but I really want to still. So we are following a world where there was a war of kinds and the Autome took over from the humans. And now they rule everything, and Ayla is a human servant rising in the ranks of the House of Autome in order to kill their leader and the royal princess. However, when she encounters the AI Autome princess, things go very differently. I know that it has a queer relationship, I know it's human AI, I know I've wanted to read it forever, so just fingers crossed that I actually get to it because I don't know what I'm doing. If you have read this, please let me know what you thought because I want to hear amazing things so that it will push me to finally pick it up. Because it's one of those novels where my anticipation is so high that I'm really scared that it won't live up to all the hype that I made in my own mind. The next one I want to get to is a buddy read I'm doing with my aunt. This is The Giver of Stars by Jojo Moyes. So this is following an English woman who decides to escape her life and go to America to marry an American man. Yet, like, when she gets out there, she realizes it's not so free after all, because she's bored and her husband is controlling. So instead she decides to sign up for Eleanor Roosevelt's new traveling library and travel around in Kentucky to bring the traveling library around to the different towns. So I think it sounds really fascinating, and I've never read Jojo Moyes before. Apparently she is an English writer. I know that she's really popular. Like, obviously this was part of Reese's book club, and my aunt has read Jojo Moyes a lot and likes her, so I'm looking forward to my first one. Alright, and the next one I really want to get to is one that I've heard nothing but great, dark, creepy things about. This is The Push by Ashley Audrain. This is about a young mother who is settling into motherhood, and she's finding it quite exhausting, like as it surely is, and she slowly realizes, though, that something is wrong with her daughter, and as she becomes more and more convinced that her daughter isn't like other children, the more that her husband seems to tell her that nothing is wrong and it's all in her own mind, and you're like, is he gaslighting her or is she really just delusional? What's happening? I'm really excited. That kind of sounds like the premise of some other like evil children books I've read, so I'm really excited, and no one spoil me. Please don't spoil me. But yeah, just really excited to be here. And the next one, I was so excited when I read the description. I had to get it immediately. This is In the Garden of Spite, a novel of the Black Widow of Laporte. And you might be like, that sounds really random. Like, how would you know about that? And I know about it because I love to binge watch Bailey Sarian. If you don't know her, she does Makeup Murder Mystery Mondays, where she talks about famous like murder cases or mystery cases while doing her makeup, and one of them was on the Widow of Laporte. So I already had heard like the real life case facts, and then when I saw this I was like, please give it to me, please give it to me now. So this is actually written by a woman in Norway. She's Norwegian, but she wrote in English, and this is about the Widow of Laporte. So it says, they whisper about her in Chicago. Men come to see her with their hopes, their dreams, their fortunes, but no one sees them leave. No one sees them at all after they come to call on the Widow of Laporte. She has created a glorious enterprise meant to raise her from the bleak, colorless drudgery of her childhood to the life she deserves. After all, vermin always survive. And I'm just like, excuse me, what? Am I blessed with like 2 female serial killer books in 1 month? So In the Garden of Spite and also Her Savage Instinct, or The Savage Instinct. I'm ready. This sounds absolutely fabulous. Just wanted to bring it to your attention because I've heard no one talk about it, but I will be reading it. I don't know about you, but very excited for that one. And then next, I want to read Remote Control by Nnedi Okorafor. It is her newest one, and I just can't get it out of my mind. I have a Nnedi Okorafor like sitting up on my shelf up there. I have Who Fears Death, which is the number 2 in the series that I started before, but you know, who finishes series? Not me. So Remote Control is about a young girl named Fatima, and Death pays her a visit, but instead of killing her, Death decides to take her under its wing. She is the adopted daughter of the Angel of Death. Beware of her, mind her, Death guards her like one of its own. I don't know more than that. Don't need to. You have sold it to me, and take my money. I will be reading this in March. And the last one I am hoping to get to in March is My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. This is a very hard-hitting one about a girl who was groomed in her childhood, in her school days, by one of her teachers, I believe, and then she thought she was in a love relationship with him and that they loved each other and nothing was wrong. However, it isn't until many, many years later, when she is much older and may have a daughter of her own, not sure, that she realizes that things were actually not what she thought they were. And this is really reminding me of a few novels I've read before, like Sofka by Sonia Vinioff, is that correct? I wasn't a fan of how that ended, but it seems very similar, where someone is groomed and they believe themselves to be in love still with that horrible person, yet when they grow up and they know people that are of the age they were, they're like, oh, no, that was completely fucked. So I've heard nothing but good things about this. I've heard Alicia talk about it. I've heard other people talk about it in like random wrap-ups, and it has really high ratings. So I really want to read this, even though I know it's going to be very hard-hitting and possibly make me angry or make me cry. But those are usually the books that end up my favorites of the year. So we shall see. Please let me know what you are reading in March, and I hope that I've brought some new books to your attention. If I mentioned a few books that you hadn't heard of before and are interested in, please consider giving me the thumbs up or subscribing. That would be awesome. I'm always trying to read widely and bring new books to your attention and to my own. I'm hella pumped for March, and I will see you soon in another video, which I believe will be about how I find my books. And I have 10 different ways, and they are all free. So yeah, without further ado, I will see you then. Bye!